Hello folks, today I'm going to do a quick settlement build. After playing Fallout for such a long time, I kind of figured out a quick and dirty way to throw together pretty decent settlements. I kind of have a sort of a blueprint that I do. I have a small, medium, and large type settlements, and I think today I'm just going to go ahead and do a small one. Supports about a dozen settlers, has all the basic accoutrements that they need. It usually maintains about 80 happiness. I mean, I could probably push it higher if I add more stuff, but with all the basic stuff I include, I just kind of want to keep it simple and go ahead and get started. Now, I usually like to have some kind of foundation of some kind. It really depends on how flat the area is. This isn't very flat. You can see the ground's pretty bumpy. There's some areas where I build where I got a nice flat area, at least a small area. It doesn't have to be the whole size of the settlement, but I like it at least 4 tiles wide. Yeah, I think I'm going to raise this a little bit. So select my block and then unselect it. And that puts a focus on that particular item. Now I'm going to hold down select, and then it'll multi-select everything around it. So I want to raise this a little bit. Move it over. And the reason I want to do that is I do want to have a little bit of elevation, because I'm going to put some workshops down here. And the settlers like to use them, but I don't want them to be on the ground. So I actually need to pull these for now. Either warehouse or barn floor, I want to use their cement block, because I can actually sink in there, and I'll show you why I do that when the time comes. There's probably stairs you could use that would look better, but I like using wooden stairs, particularly these, because settlers have an easier time navigating them. You put stairs there with rails, they tend to build up traffic jams, probably because they can't slide around each other very easily. So I started using these wherever there's a lot of traffic. Now this room is used as my vault, and I build it this way because I don't want settlers to spawn inside this little vault here. It's my storage vault. Because they will take stuff from containers, and they'll look for better weapons or better armor, and they'll take them. And sometimes I don't want them to do that, so I've made this vault that I put in just about every settlement I ever build. And I want to put this door in now, because sometimes let me get rid of this for now. Sometimes you'll put all this together, and for some reason this electric powered door won't work. You can't set it. One trick I learned is to move the structure. I select the whole structure and move it until the door fits, because sometimes there'll be like a pile of stone or something underneath that's just preventing this thing from snapping. So I like to build this part first, because once this is out of the way, then everything else is pretty easy, unless you got trees or some other object up high that might get in the way. Okay, so this is basically done. The generator's going to go right here. Like I said, I used warehouse or barn slabs because you can sink into those, and I don't always sink the generator. It'll actually just drop right in despite the fact it's too tall, but the electrical terminal sticks out the floor, and sometimes it's hidden behind one of the shops that I have, so it's no big deal. But I just kind of started doing that just to make certain. Plus, it's easier to wire when it's not sticking through the floor. Otherwise, you got to do a wire glitch in order to hook it up to any terminal or any conduit. Okay, so that's done. And I like using mostly barn material unless I'm using glass walls or I need metal walls. And there's a trick I do here. Floors. Double floor right there. Okay. I just snap these right in. Let's see. I said I was going to make this small, didn't I? Okay, that means I won't be using these. So that's a 3x3. It's going to be pretty small. I can squeeze about a dozen settlers in there. I have a shop and a bar. Just real basic stuff, and then I put the greenhouse on top. So that's done. On larger settlements, I usually have a stairwell up to this floor, and then a stairwell up to the second floor from here. But since this is small, I'm going to make a separate stairwell right here. And before I do that, though, I need an access way. I usually have a stairway to the top or the roof here, so I like to widen this walkway a little bit. These I keep fairly narrow. And then out here, I like to have some tables and chairs so the settlers have some place to, chill out. I like to create a little room. I don't want to put the door right here because settlers have to navigate around the shop and the bar. So I'm going to put it here. See, what's the trick I use for that? Well, let's just get it built. Let's see where we go from there. That's good. I was just thinking of something new. What I'm doing is I'm building a wall down the center of this tile, and usually I'll pull one of these out, but I'm thinking, why don't I just get rid of these all together and then just use halves. And what that does is that lets me build walls in the middle there. Oops, but I got one problem. Oops, didn't need to destroy it. Let's see, let's just keep these. What you need to do is put this here. I want the wood grain to run the right way, so do that instead. Okay, now we'll do this. There, so it looks like the rest of the floor. Now we'll put in these walls, and we want tall walls. So this just creates a little walkway, instead of an actual door. It just creates some space so settlers can either go to the bunkhouse or they can go to the commissary. Okay, so that's it for that. Ironically, I can't put the roof in while these are here, so I'm going to store these. because they're in the middle of the roof tiles. Oops. Yeah. I want to get the glass wall, the half glass wall, or the half wall of glass. That there. Installing my windows. And those are sticking out too far. You got to watch that. See how they're sticking out? You got to set it so they're inside the jam. This is my eave. That's where I mount all my turrets and stuff, so they're, you know, overhanging the walkway. Plus it gives a little bit of shelter in the walkway. And that's it. Okay, now let's roof it. Use flat roofs. I want the, guess I want it to run that way. Okay, so I'm in the Commonwealth, which means I'll be setting up artillery on this. So I like to put artillery around here, greenhouse over here. And I do that by here's the greenhouse. Okay, so that's it for top straw. Oh, one thing. Always drop one of these in. I like to leave room for turrets right here. Okay, good. Now I gotta put these walls back in. There. Now I've got to make it look like it's actually being held up by something. Use iron posts. Okay, let's start to rail it. I like using scaffolding railing because if you look at the steel count, it uses 4 as opposed to, let's see, concrete. That uses 6, you know. And the scaffolding railing offers a little bit more cover. Also, I'm not really into using wood railing, which is this stuff here. I mean, if you want to go for a super rustic look, I guess that's fine, but that's a little bit too junk looking to me, so I'll stick with this. Okay, I'm gonna have a guard post right here, I think. I think I'm gonna have it here. Put that there. That there. So I'll put the guard post in now. Don't stick it out too much. Okay, good. Okay, that's all the railing. Yeah, I had wanted to sink the generator into the slabs. Sometimes I can do that. And sometimes it don't work at all. I'm not sure why. Anyway, let's use a post as close as we can. Select it, deselect it, then hold select it. That makes it easy to sync. All right. I don't know why this is such a problem. Where the generator is concerned, it's hit and miss. At Dalton Farm, I was able, as long as I put the generator square in the middle here, which means I had room on this side, I was able to sync it. I think that had something to do with, well, actually, I don't know what it had anything to do with. I haven't figured out what the issue is with that particular glitch, so I'm just going to have to set the generator in this way, and my electrical terminal conduit thing, which you see over there on the left top of the generator, is going to stick to the floor, which I don't really care for, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay. Let's tuck that back as far as I can. Let's see what it looks like up here. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's right there. So, I'll figure out something to make the wires, because the wires run out the top of this terminal. You'll see them run into the ground, so I'll figure out something to make that look better. Can I access that? Yes, I can. Okay, put one on the ground. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, not bad. I'll leave that and then just run off that terminal on the wall. And what I did to connect, because you can't connect wires to the generator. Let me show you real quick what I do. There's a YouTube channel called The Schooled Zone. The guy does a lot of Fallout 4 build videos. He has some excellent material on how to use some of these glitches. So if I were to try to connect this conduit to this generator, it won't, because the terminal is going through something. You get a collision detection, the wire stays red. So the trick you use is I connect it to a different conduit just to get a wire running, and then you highlight the wire and the little green dot in the very middle of my screen, that's my reticle. I highlight the wire, but I put the dot on the conduit, and I press the space or whatever wire connection button you use, and that creates a connection. And then I go over here to the generator, and you'll see it's green. Press the space again to make the connection. Now everything's white because it still thinks it's in connection mode, so I got to hit tab to deselect everything. But now I've got a wire running to the generator, and of course it's going through the floor there. You can see it running through the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And what I'm going to do is I do want a conduit over here, right there, and I'm going to, oops, run a wire to here. That's not what I want. Knock it off. Must be in some kind of mode or something. Yeah. Go back in. Okay, there. There. Now wire's highlighted, conduit is pointed at. Select again. I'm going to go to this conduit. There. That way I've only got that one tiny wire running out of the conduit that's poking through the floor, and it's not so noticeable. Store this over here because I actually use the floor conduit a lot for making connections like that. There's also another neat little glitch you can use called the Wi-Fi glitch. Again, the Schooled Zone material for that Wi-Fi glitch, where you can actually connect things wirelessly, but it's fairly unstable. I use it for spotlights, because I don't like running lights to spotlights. So what I'll do, or running wires to spotlights, what I'll do is I'll stick the spotlight on the wall, and then I'll Wi-Fi glitch it using, you know, the Wi-Fi glitch, and then I'll grab the spotlight and run it out to where I'm going to stick it and put it on there. Okay, so that's done there. I got the wires run, the main conduits run. I got more conduits I need to run throughout the utility room here. So I'm going to go ahead and run those. And I need to put my door back in. I think I'm going to do a quick little interesting thing here, see if I can. Sometimes doors don't pop in as well as I want, but there's a trick I learned about NAND gates. Oops, I got to turn that around. Okay, good. And when I first started building, I wanted to keep settlers out of this room entirely, and essentially that's impossible. I'd always come to a settlement and they would spawn inside this room. So this is kind of useless, but it's something I used to do, and it was pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it, and I use it. Oh, it's XOR gate. Okay, so I use that. I'll put that up here. I need a switch here. And let's see. Oh, I need a switch. Oh, let me see. Oops. Oh, the way I go through the walls, I select them, and then you can walk around and then unselect them, and they'll just snap back to where they were. Little trick I learned. Switch there. And a wire there. I think I do. No, I probably don't need a wire there. You know what? I'm going to take this out. Oops. Clamped items were removed. Let me put this over here instead. Talking about a trick I learned. I forgot what I was saying. Alright, well, let's go ahead and run these wires. I'm going to need this floor conduit, obviously, to go through. I can do it. Just one. So I need to run this to that. Give it some power. That to that. Oh, it's the gate. That's what I was missing. Alright. I gotta put that on somehow. How am I gonna get that on there? Okay, let's take this wall out. And that's good. I know I'm gonna need that outside, so I'm gonna leave that there. Good. Put my XOR gate back. Okay. Okay, so what do we do here? Oh, I was running from... Did I take that wire out? I guess I did. And the gate's in the way. Let's move it down. Still in the way. Man. There we go. And I don't remember which terminal is which. Well, we'll try it and see. Actually, run that to the switch to the gate, or the and from the gate to the door. And we hit the switch. Okay. I think that'll work. Nice mess of wires here. Now I want to run, again, do a true wire glitch, highlight the wire, so the point is the conduit, so select that to the switch. Now, I don't have a wire out here, so I need to make one, so highlight the wire, point at the switch. Switch. Okay, and I think what that does is make a two-way switch. Yeah. So if either switch is set, then it'll work. Okay, need some daylight. Okay, so that's run. Got some power now. Well, ideally, I like to light more in the middle of the room. One thing I always drop is a power armor station right there. Try to set it up so I can access these conduits. Yeah. Go ahead and save my current progress. One of the things I'm going to go ahead and do, I think I'm going to speed through this part of the video, is build the beds. And I build bunk beds, and normally I've started using a mod in order to build bunk beds because it's just a lot faster. But for the sake of this video and for users who can't use a particular mod for bunk beds, I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way without mods. Actually, I'm not going to use any mods in this build. And I'm going to build bunk beds using hospital beds, and this is a trick I learned a long time ago. It was also recently posted on School Zone. He has some different bunk beds you can set up, but I like using this one because it's fairly easy to do. And I need I'll borrow one of these stairs. I like using stairs because it points at an angle. It sticks at the bed over at an angle. So I've already got the stair selected, so I can just hold select it. Come over here. And this is probably the most meticulous, mundane part of any build, because I usually build about 7 of these for a small settlement. I make the settlement so it can occupy 12 people, but I like to have a couple extra beds just in case. Anyway, once I get the beds lined up, I on a PC I hold my my select button or my alt key, and then I roll my mouse wheel up, and you can see it goes in, like that. If you're using like a console or a smoother mouse, maybe it won't jump up so much, but for me that's about good enough. Grab this side out of the way. You can see it's pretty good. I mean, these posts are still kind of, they're not totally connected to the bottom bed. I mean, this side's fine. I move it over just a hair. Like that. But you know what? It's good enough for government work. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the bottom bed, deselect it, then hold select it. And turn them this way. And I can squeeze about 7 of these in this room. So I'll go ahead and do that. Get that out of the way and done so I can start calling in settlers and they have a place to sleep. You really kind of got to get a knack for it if you want to do it quickly. Okay, so all their beds are built. I got plenty of room for, 2 settlers to walk side by side and get up into their beds, so... That's good. Alright. I usually like to put a full bar here. It just really increases happiness if there's a bigger bar. A little bit of room here. So settlers can squeeze around, or the bartender can get out when they want to. I'll line it up on this seam here. That's good. All right. And then trader, smaller shop right here. Good. I like to cook sometimes, make squirrel stew, whatnot. I'm going to put this here. Need lights. For the bar, I like to use these track lights. Okay, these stools I like to use, mainly because I know which way they're facing. You can tell by, I'm going to put it here and make it go red. There's a line, and they move that to the left a little bit. Line up the X stand at the bottom of the stool. But if that's to the left, then this is the correct way to face the stool. We're kind of up close. That's good. I'd like to have a couple of bar stools here. And for this, I just drop in some fluorescent lighting. That's good. And then always above the doors, put these utility lights. Straighten that up a little bit. And usually I like to have a neon sign. I don't have a lot of space for it though. Just put it over here. I'd love to put it in the window, but I can't figure out a way to do that without obstructing the window. And then put a string of lights right here. Is it outside the glass? Good. All right. And that's so I can light a little eating area I make right here. I usually test these chairs. Every chair I set, I like to test, make sure it works, because sometimes you'll set a chair in such a way against another object that it can't be used. So, anyway, I'm not going to do that now. I'll probably do it some other time. Right now, that's good enough for me. Out here, usually these are almost always facing the wrong way. So turn it around. I think that's right. There's like a little white splotch in the middle there. A little sitting area, decorations, and ashtray. Okay, so that handles all that. The next thing I need to do, I want to start pulling in settlers. Build a tower. Oops. Ouch. I was building at Kingsport Lighthouse one time up really high, and I kept falling through the floor, or grabbing the floor right underneath me, and you fall through when you do that. Died about half a dozen times during that build. Alright, I guess we'll just set it here. Figure out how I want to do this. Put a conduit. I like using these because they're small. They come with the Vault Tech DLC. Yeah, that's fine. I'll put it right there, and that's lined up with this door, which is right there, which is right there. which is right there. Alright, so let's see. I'm going to do this. That's fine. And that's wrong. Oops, did it again. Great. Let's do that. Okay. I forgot to put a conduit up here. I need one right. I don't have to have it here, but I'd like to have it here. I'm gonna go ahead and move this over here. Let's just put it right there. All right. Alright, and then the thing I do with these, because the switch doesn't work right on these settlement beacons, so I just kind of have to wire glitch it through here and then from here to here. That way, if I want to turn off the beacon, I can just hit the bottom switch and it'll turn the whole beacon off. Because, yeah, this switch, for some reason, doesn't work right. It's not stable, so I just add my own switch. I leave the main switch on the beacon itself, and the bottom switch actually powers it. Okay, so I'm attracting settlers, which means I'm probably going to need to build a farm. Oops. Resources, miscellaneous. This is good. Back to food. Moo food trees are one. Actually, a whole one food. Everything else is half of food, you know? Potato plants are great because you can squeeze them in really tight. I always like to grow carrots for something. I can't remember what it is, but I'd put those like right here towards the door. But that'll do for now. That'll feed the settlers. Next thing I want to do is water. Go ahead and throw a pump over here, large one. Oops. I'd probably put more than one in here, but Taffington Boathouse is what I use for my primary water profit. I just filled that thing up with, I got like 12 pumps there. It makes about 340 water, about 250 which gets stored in the workshop, so I got to harvest it every once in a while. You know, wind up with a couple thousand in the workshop, and then when I go shopping, I just overload myself with purified water and exchange that for whatever I need. Great way to make money, purified water. So yeah, you just find a place where you can have a whole bunch of these, and then you need a lot of. I usually like to put in at least 4 trader shops, junk shops, and have them manned, and that makes you pretty good money too. So yeah, Taffington Boathouse, 12 of these pumps. Well, actually, there's 9 of these pumps, and then 3 smaller ones, because that's all I got room for in the structure I made, and then 4 shops, 4 trade shops that are manned, and it makes some good caps by itself. Plus, as long as I harvest the water, I got plenty of water I can use to trade for all the stuff I need. So, all right, so there's that. Now I got to run power to it. Wire. go. We've got 43 water. So I've still got that hand pump over there by the theater commissary. No defense. Should probably slap some turrets down. Always start with the basics. I don't like those turrets. I want the heavy turrets. Alright, now I've got to wire them up. So, okay, so that's sort of kind of going through the glass, but, you know, I don't want to spend the extra time to, because usually I'll run one conduit on one side of the wall, another conduit on the other side of the wall, and just true wire through to make it look good. But I'm not going to do that, so. There. And another thing I love doing, one of my favorite parts of the greenhouse. I used to use some track lighting, but it's just easier for me to just drop in a light string here. Okay, so basic defenses. In most cases I run some fencing around with sort of obstructed entryways, so they can't just run straight in towards the compound. They actually have to maneuver, which gives the turrets time to get a beat on them. But I have food, beds, bar, everything. No settlers yet. Nope, still just, I have one person here, but that's the provisioner you see over there. Alright, well, I think that's all the basic elements I need for, you know, a settlement. Usually maintains around 80 happiness. And they don't take too long to put together. I mean, I can put this together really fast, but obviously doing a video, you know, this took about, I don't know, an hour. There's one thing I forgot to do. Alright, the next thing I want to do is wire up this door real quick. This is my storage vault. I do not like letting settlers get in here. This is why I make it so small. I'll show you what I do here. Sometimes, like at Sanctuary, I use a tall one, and I put many more containers on it, but for just general storage, I just use, I'm fine using this kind of, I need some light here. I'm fine using half-size shelves, and then I take some foot lockers. Turn it around. 3. Oh yeah, the trick with setting things on shelves, you have to set the shelf higher than yourself. You know, see how I got it elevated? If I was a little bit more elevated, I wouldn't be having this much trouble with this particular foot locker, but I like to put 3 toolboxes on the top, stuff like chems and throwing ordnance like grenades, mines. And then one spare for just dropping junk in. This usually gives me enough to just kind of organize my gameplay a little bit. And I set it in here. And it is no room for settlers to spawn in there, so at least I haven't had one spawn yet. If I do, I'll go back to my tall shelf, start using that instead, but right now I've been content to just use 3 most time. And then I have, almost always forget to make this. This is my junk box. I grab everything when I loot and scavenge. I take everything. I just want to make sure I have whatever I need to build or just whatever. And I've made a fair amount of money selling water and anything I loot. And I loot everything. And there's some armor and weapons I keep, and the stuff I generally don't want I throw in here. And I can set up a trading outpost. I think it's under miscellaneous. Yeah, right here. Go ahead and set that up. And I'll usually throw down a campfire, chairs, and a bench, and a raider cover, or raider canvas over the top for the traders to come through. But when they come through, I'll just grab everything out of here and just sell it to them. You know, or trade it for ammo that I need and stuff. That's my junk box. Keep it right there by the door. And then I go through and I just organize. I put my different types of armor down here, weapons here, and again, chems, throwing ordnance, and miscellaneous box right there. But I'll organize it by the kind of armor I want to keep and pass on to my settlers. I'll put in here. The stuff I want to break down because, you know, I'm in too big of a rush. I like to break down the armor to its most basic stuff. But the stuff's not broken down, I'll put it in here. And then the legendary stuff I throw in here. And every once in a while I'll go through all the settlements and I'll pull everything out of the legendary boxes and bring it all up to Sanctuary so I can, you know, have it all in one place and I can look through it if I'm looking for a particular type of weapon or armor. And this is for the armor. This is the armor box, and down here's the weapons boxes. Yeah, works pretty well. And then there's one more thing I added every settlement. Throw that in real quick. It's the Vault-Tec terminal. Just wire that up so I can manage my population. And I can also use it to control switches. A little note: sometimes this thing will go wonky when the switches won't show up. So I actually have to add a basic terminal right next to it to access the switches. That happened to me when I first started playing. Maybe I was just doing things wrong. It hasn't happened to me since, but let me throw a light out here real quick. And I like to throw a couple of utility lights about here, no, in the middle. Resources, scavenging stations. Like to have a couple of those. You know, scavengers are good for patrolling. That's just my personal opinion. So I set up a couple of these stations and assign some settlers to them, and they'll go around looking for junk, but they mainly just patrol the grounds. And then I need some crafting. Put an armor station here. And weapons. I don't do a lot of chem stuff. But I usually try to find a place to have a chemistry shop or chemistry workbench. And I'll go ahead and throw that in here. Small one. Alright, I think that's everything. Oops, forgot. One thing I also do is I do like to drop a couple of turrets down here on ground level, because foes will manage to get past the turrets, and so I like to have a little bit of backup here. Something shooting at them while they try to approach. Plus the perimeter fencing, which kind of keeps them at bay for a few seconds so they can't rush. Gives the turrets time to get a beat on them. Oh, and of course the most important thing. Gotta let them know who we are, you know. Of course, for all practical purposes, artillery going in that direction will probably knock the top off of anything it shoots. No, but still. All right. Ready for settlers. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it, maybe learned a few things. A lot of the glitching, and actually all the glitching and stuff I learned to do from the Schooled Zone. So check them out, SKOOLED Zone. They're a good Fallout 4 channel if you want to learn how to build in unusual ways. He's got a lot of tips and tricks you can use. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again next video. And for those who are interested, I know a lot of people subscribe because they want to see the Bikeberry motorized bike build. It's coming up on a year since I built the thing, and I've run into a lot of issues, and I've had to handle them in certain ways, so I'm going to be doing another video on that. It'll be probably my final actual review. Not my final adventure with the bike, but it'll probably be my last review for the bike, and everyone can draw their conclusions on to whether or not they want to get one. So be waiting for that video. That should be coming out pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.